My earliest memories are of a really musical family. I grew up in the West, cowboy lineage, if you will, and I can even remember when I was like really little. After dinner, my dad and my grandfather, my mom or uncle or whoever, they'd sit down and they'd play music all night long, and I sort of thought that was what all families did. I kind of thought that was normal. My dad played music. He played the guitar, he played the fiddle, he sang. He was in a band like all his life pretty much, and so that was just sort of a standard. And I was obsessed with music before I even really knew that I was. I had like a little tape recorder, and I would like crawl under my bed and listen to these tapes like 4 or 5 years old. And I remember like Chuck Berry and Jerry Lee Lewis were like, I don't know, that music just was something else. It like spoke to me, man. It was awesome. And even like Little Richard and Carl Perkins and some of that stuff. I have real vivid memories of even listening to the legends, Ray Price or Farron Young, Bob Wills, and the Texas Playboys, Willie Whalen, all those legends. And so I got to hear all that. So Dad was very musical, and that was the music that he was bringing to the table. And then my mom, some of the musical cues I took from her, I can remember listening to Fandango by ZZ Top. Man, it was just phenomenal. I just was like floored by that. And she also had Diver Down by Van Halen. And I remember one day I was digging through, I remember this very vividly, I was digging through my mom's records, and I come across this one, and it was Led Zeppelin's Physical Graffiti. I'll never forget putting that record on, and like the needle hits the grooves and it starts playing. That was like the coolest, hardest rocking thing I ever heard. I mean, maybe like 9-10 years old. And so a lot of that rock and roll was already coming in, and really I was getting into that like big time. So I had both of these two different musical worlds simultaneous all the time, which I liked because it made my musical palette a little more diverse. Although I was into music big time, I didn't really start trying to play anything very much till I was probably like maybe 10, 11 years old. I'd go get one of the guitars and take it to my room and sit there and I'd put on a song that I liked, and I would try to learn the chords or the intro or the lead guitar part. I remember trying to learn Long Cool Woman in a Black Dress by the Hollies, that intro, and that was like one of the first things I ever learned. I thought that was really cool. When I was 12, I was almost 13, my dad approached me one time and he's like, do you want to like sit in with us some night and like play? And I was like, yeah, I guess, I don't know. And so I went in and I think I sat in. I think the first time I ever sat in was I actually played drums for like 2 songs. A gig was coming up and he was like, and I knew enough chords to play rhythm. He said, well, you want to just sit in and play rhythm all night? So I sat in one night when I just turned 13, and I played rhythm guitar all night long for a whole gig. And man, that was like it. I was just hooked. I started playing with him full time, and I played with him off and on. I played with him all through high school and then even off and on for several years after that. As I got older, I never let the whole rock and roll thing go. I wanted those honky-tonk swinging country tunes to sound more rocking. And I always wanted that music, the country western sound and the rock and roll sound, to exist like symbiotically, like at the same time. And I just like, why can't that be? And I never had really heard anything like that. I remember there was a band called the Kentucky Headhunters, and they were playing old country tunes, but really rocking it through Les Pauls and loud drums. It was a whole different sound, and I thought that's close. That's very close to what I want to sound like. And over the years of just playing and thinking about it and working on it, I really kept working towards the sound of maybe country or western themed honky tonk music played in like a hard rock style or a hard rock format. And one day, as I was, working on it or thinking about it, I thought to myself, I was like, this is like Western rock and roll. And now I call it West rock, and that's sort of where that came from, because that's just kind of what I thought it was. The first album was kind of me trying to introduce the sound to people and just kind of put it out there. And maybe it wasn't as off the cuff as some of the stuff I wanted to do. I just kind of wanted to put something out there to see what people would think about it and see what the reaction I got. And it was good. We recorded the whole thing here at Elephonic Studios. Jesse Corman, who engineered the whole thing and helped me produce it, actually was an incredible help. I couldn't have done any of that without him. And the finished product was great. It was so much more than I thought it was going to be. It's called The Atomic West, and that record now is playing in several different radio markets around the world. So I was really pleased with the way it came out. So the record we're working on now, this is much more along the lines, I think, of what I really had in my mind with the whole West Rock thing. This is much harder than the first record was. I don't know. This is more eclectic. It's a little darker. It's a little weirder, but it encompasses a lot of different sounds. But it's still, at the base of a lot of these tunes, there is that Western theme. The record's called Alien Cowboy. So, I mean, right there, we're sticking with the West. So I'm really excited to see what people think about this. I'm really excited to see what kind of reaction I will get out of them. It's pretty different. And there's a couple of tunes on here that I think when it's all said and done and we put it out there, that I think they'll be different than anything else I've ever really heard.